You know, it's bhari cool to observe how Vasan Bala's work is immensely inspired by so many different films and filmmakers that have come before him, and yet he goes ahead and makes films so uniquely his own each time. Hey all, my name is Sucharita. Welcome back. Today, let's talk about Jigra, now in theaters.
मैं सिर्फ अंकुर की बहन हूँ।
Satya and Ankur are sister and brother who have grown up without parents. Additional trauma: as kids they saw their father right before he jumped off the balcony of their home. As firstborn daughters are prone to do, Satya assumes the parental role, becoming even more protective of her little brother than she would have otherwise. They're taken in by distant relatives, and adult Satya now is the head of hospitality within this family at this humongous and rich household, and Ankur seemingly is a fresh graduate on his way to starting a career in tech. How from here they land up in the made-up country of Hanshi Dao, which is kind of like Singapore, where Ankur is in prison and Satya is plotting to break him out, allow Vasan and co-writer Debashish Irengbam to show you. When offered group counseling in a scene, Satya refuses steadfastly to go through any stages of grief. Her turn from stern and disciplined older sister to full-blown anarchist doesn't have the time to waste on indulgent things like display of anger or vulnerability. She's a woman of action. Her expression of it becomes increasingly literal as the story progresses. Alia Bhatt plays Satya, understated for the most part, holding herself back, tightly wound, prepared for the worst. She's alert like a cat, but she's not on edge like a rabbit. She doesn't want to pick a fight because she knows that if she's made to, she has the capability to lose herself in it entirely, setting herself and the world around her on fire. Her pent-up rage stems from anger at her father, exacerbated by her having to be staff member at her own home, being constantly aware how fickle it all is. Now, playing a woman who has trained herself to actively, pointedly not allow any emotion cross her face is some advanced sublime acting. This is the thriller film deserving of Alia Bhatt's capabilities, not whatever they made her do in Heart of Stone. Despite the stoicism, there are many faces of Satya. She is kind and she's forgiving, illustrated in an early sequence where she intercepts some drugs at a party, hides them in her palm and quietly tells her junior staff to flush them away. She allows herself, though, to only fully feel the full extent of her emotions only when whatever job is at hand is done to her satisfaction. Before arriving in Hanshi Dao, she knows she won't allow herself a moment of respite. So on the flight to this place, she stuffs her face with whatever food and drink she can lay her hands on. In this moment, she's desperate to will into reality that she's a machine. This food will keep her body fueled for however long it takes for her to bring her brother back home.
कोई परेशान तो नहीं कर रहा ना अंदर?
कोई क्या परेशान करेगा मुझे? आप जो मेरी दीदी हो, हजारों में एक.
Vedang Rena, the brother, is Ankur, embodying the literal meaning of his name. Ankur is a freshly sprouted young adult. Shielded by his sister, when on his own he stumbles and he rummages. The actor is particularly good when he's depicting physical turmoil. A small subtle gap between when a lash hits his body and when he lets out a scream, allowing his body to feel the pain, in contrast with his sister outside the prison. I appreciate Vasan Bala's decision to not give in to the Bollywood requirement of a leading man who gets at least one moment of machismo, one slow motion shot where muscles are bulging, one moment where anger in the eyes finally gets its physical manifestation. Even when Ankur is throwing punches, it's evident that this character, this man, has never done this before. He doesn't know where his blows are landing, if at all. Standing taller than his sister, Ankur doesn't take over. Neither does he try. The other character who you will hear chatter about soon is Vivek Gombar as Warden Hansraj Landa. We will talk about this name shortly. But let me first speak about Vivek Gombar. A long way from Chaitanya Tamane's court, this Gombar is a man of Indian origin who speaks in a mixed Indian/Hanshi Dao accent, which is Singaporean, and extremely skillfully manages to keep it from becoming unintentionally hysterical. In one moment, he says to Ankur, when the latter tries to talk to him in Hindi, कि my grandfather might have understood what you are saying. I don't. Don't let his Indian blood fool you. Hansraj Landa is no friend. Landa wears headphones, seemingly listening to music each time he happily walks over for yet another execution. I was curious to know what he was listening to. Gombar pulls off a spectacularly kooky and terrifying portrayal of a man drunk on power granted to him by the state, legal but immoral. Much like another movie villain who shares this name, Hans Landa, the Nazi played by Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds. This is one of many signature Vasan Bala Easter eggs. During one assignment, you hear a roll call in a prison and you hear the officers looking for Wong Kar-wai, John Woo, Kim Ki-duk. A young Ankur complains that Amrish, Jeevan, names of two famous Hindi cinema villains, are also names of boys who are beating him up, as Satya casually drops Zakhm, Sadak in one sentence. Earlier collaborators, Radhika Madan, Sikandar Khair, Akanksha Ranjan Kapoor, they show up in a scene each. Now, I am a fan of Vasan Bala Easter eggs, alright? I love having a puzzle to solve in his films. It's just, gives me joy. But Jigra is not Monica, oh my darling. Moments here might be tongue-in-cheek, but the film doesn't carry any undertones of comedy or satire. Hence, to see Alia Bhatt's real-life best friend turn up as an air hostess serving her food only sort of served to take me out of the illusion rather than enhancing it. Hearing Wong Kar-wai's name only generates images of this Hong Konger filmmaker behind bars, confused about what in his life has led him to this point. Fun little bits to observe, but overall adding to the Jigra experience, I'm not so sure. The screenplay does suffer from loopholes and is given to convenient coincidences a bit. The same group of people planning the jailbreak outside incidentally happen to all be related to the group of friends that has now formed inside. One major death and how that impacts the larger plan is never quite spoken about again. One of the build-ups in the screenplay promises you that there's an inbuilt countdown. How many days are left for these death sentences to be carried out? It is an important thing that the film wants you to keep in mind because it flashes you these visuals quickly, but one which sort of ceases to matter after a while. However, thanks to editor Prerna Sehgal, Swapnil Sonavane's staggering camera work, Achin Thakkar's music, supported by stellar performances by Manoj Pava, Rahul Ravindran, I found it easy to overlook these minor annoyances. The joy of watching a Vasan Bala directorial for me stems from my anticipation to see how the filmmaker has attempted to push himself with this new outing. The climactic jailbreak sequence, moments of which you see in the trailer as well, is an immense achievement mounted on a scale the filmmaker has never had access to before. And even within that, he brings Alia Bhatt to a moment where, stood atop a burning car, she yells on a megaphone, "Inquilaab Zindabad." Go watch and then come, we'll talk more about it. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, Jigra is 6 episodes I am releasing of my new show, okay? फुर्सत में सीरियस बात है. एक एपिसोड आ चुका है विद कोंकणा सेन शर्मा. उसका लिंक डालेंगे हम यहाँ डिस्क्रिप्शन में नीचे. मेरा चैनल है. मैं करूँगी खुद का प्लग. जाओ प्लीज़ देखो. Nice, lovely, long interview it is. My name is Sucharita. Thank you for stopping by.